Members, we have a quorum. We are in the middle of a debate on AB 900. I'll call. Any further debate or discussion? Okay, the Senate will please come to order. Members, we are in the middle of a discussion on AB 900. Any further discussion or debate? Senator Leno?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. I think we can all recognize there are any number of solid reasons not to support AB 900. Traditional criticisms of late night, last minute legislating at the end of session, that there's not been enough review on a complex issue, that there were still many questions left unresolved in the policy committee hearing. There were some suggested amendments not taken. As I say, all real reasons not to support the bill. But I thought the author's responses to the questions raised in policy committee were very substantial. I think it was Senator Hancock who suggested maybe we should do 5 projects and then have a review of it. Senator Steinberg was very agreeable to that. There was the promise that there would be a follow-up bill put into preprint within the next couple of weeks, which would be reviewed and discussed in some interim hearings between now and January, that there would be other considerations made so that we can really get this right. So I think that mitigates some of the concerns significantly. I just want to say I was very touched, uncommonly so. I went to what is otherwise somewhat of a perfunctory labor breakfast that many of us go to on Labor Day. This was Monday morning in Santa Rosa. Seen a lot of old friends, hearing a lot of familiar stories from a lot of elected officials, but the severity of the unemployment just radiated throughout the entire breakfast. It is so serious, especially in the trades. We've already heard mention of the 40% and higher unemployment rates. And I came back on Tuesday thinking, I don't know which of the options of bills that may be before us I want to consider voting for, but I know I want to do something to move job creation forward, something significant. And I think AB 900 is that vehicle, AB 900 is that opportunity. I think we need a greater sense of urgency about the need to do something and not to put it off until January. That we want to make a statement and we also want to get a process in motion. And Senator Steinberg has already articulated it as well as can be said. We need to do something major and we need to do it now. And I'm very pleased to be supporting AB 900 today.
Senator Correa.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, I rise to say that many of us here can feel the frustration of having worked on this issue many years and not having been able to get one bill to the Senate floor to address these issues, of streamlining the regulatory process to begin to create jobs in the state of California. If I may paraphrase my good colleague from Contra Costa, as he said yesterday, we're not paid on this floor to vote on the good bills, vote aye on the good bills and vote no on the bad bills, but rather we're paid to work and solve problems. This is not a perfect bill. And again, it's maybe not the ideal one that I would want to vote for, but the biggest issue that we have in the state of California today, biggest issue, second and third, are, of course, jobs, jobs, and jobs. And this legislation promises to move us in that direction of creating good-paying jobs. And many of those, I hope, will be for my constituents in Orange County, because all of us have good stories of our friends and neighbors out of work, having lost their homes, and not being able to get back on their feet. This legislation promises to move us in the right direction. That is why I'm going to vote for it, and I ask others here to vote for it as well.
Thank you. Senator Anderson.
I agree with my two previous colleagues. I think that our focus is on jobs. When I initially looked at this bill, I was thinking that it was going to be construction jobs. After I read it, I realized it was going to be attorney jobs, because this is going to be in the courts. It's ambiguous. It's not well written. It's 1 o'clock. I'd like to vote yes for this bill. Let's just stop it, go back, make some of the simple fixes that makes it workable. But right now, it's so ambiguous. There's no possible way that this gets out of court. And you know what? There are more important jobs in California than just attorneys. And I want to put construction people back to work. I want to put the trades back to work. I want to put everybody in California back to work. But this bill only puts attorneys to work. So I ask that this body take a half step back, fix some of the things that are easy to fix. Let's get them done. Allow me and some of my colleagues, our other colleagues, to vote yes for this, because we stand with you for jobs. But we don't stand for you if it's only court-appointed jobs. I urge a no vote.
Thank you. Senator Padilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rise in support of AB 900. I think a lot of us have been saying, and we've certainly been hearing a lot for not just the course of the last few days, the last few weeks, the last few months, or even the last year, that we are living in extraordinary times. We're living in extraordinary times because of our economy, and not for the good. Around the world, at the national level, this state, and in each and every one of our districts and our home communities, our economy is struggling. And there are record levels of people who are unemployed. And it's been our duty, we've all talked about it publicly, and we try to put our minds to some policy tasks here in the Capitol. We all express a commitment and a priority to do what we can to help stimulate the economy and put people back to work sooner rather than later. I believe that is what this bill will do. I won't speak too much about SB 292 because I plan to take that up after this item and present the specifics of that legislation. But the framework that legislation had put forth to allow significant size infrastructure projects to move forward on an expeditious manner while not undermining, while not compromising the environmental protection laws that this state holds so dear is a tough balancing act. In some places may be considered a very novel concept. But I'll be honest, when I began my effort with SB 292 last week, I thought, I know what we're going to be up against. There's going to be some pushback. And I've told a lot of friends back home, what I thought was going to be the bad news has turned into the good news. The conversation about unemployment, the conversation about trying to think bigger and bolder, the conversation about trying to thread the needle here on doing something that could stimulate the economy and create jobs by accelerating projects through an environmental review process while maintaining the very integrity of CEQA has inspired this bigger bill. And while it may not be perfect, because we're hearing that as a little bit of a theme here, I think it is an overwhelming opportunity, should we choose to take it, an overwhelming opportunity to do what all of us have been preaching about for a long, long time. Help stimulate the economy, help create jobs, but do it in a way that doesn't compromise our environmental laws that are in place. Yes, there's a lot of specifics that people have differences of opinion in. Governor can select projects. There's categories of projects. In what stage of environmental study some existing projects out there may be. Do they qualify? Do they qualify? Does the legislature have a role? We do here through the JLBC. I think all in all, this is an ambitious policy proposal, colleagues, something that very few people in their public service careers have an opportunity to vote on, let alone vote for. I strongly urge your aye vote.
Senator Vargas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand in strong support of this bill. This is a big bill. This is not an incremental bill. This is a bill where we're trying to jumpstart the economy in California. This is exactly the type of bill that we should be doing. Is it a perfect bill? No, it's not a perfect bill. There's an amendment that I would like to see, and that's this. Projects that are already in the pipeline, they should be able to apply also. There's no reason why those should not also be able to apply. In fact, you could almost make the argument that they took a chance they should go first. So I'm in favor of an amendment, but I'm also strongly in favor of this bill because it's not perfect, but it's a good bill. But I have to tell you, one of the things that I'm not in favor of, and I'll be frank, I was out of office for 4 years, and one of the things that I enjoyed in the private sector, especially at a very large company, is that you don't have little gotcha moments. One side of the company doesn't try to got the other side of the company. In fact, everyone's working together in the company to try to make that company successful. And I have to say, I've spoken now to some of my colleagues here on the opposite side, and I think that they're in a gotcha moment. That they think that maybe this is a gotcha moment. Gotcha, right at the end. As opposed to coming together right now and passing a bill that we know could help thousands and thousands of Californians. But instead, I think it's a gotcha moment. We gotcha. Gotcha. And it really is too bad. It's one of the things I didn't miss about the legislature. I think one of the things that are lacking here is the notion that we're all in this together for Californians. Here's a bill that's not perfect, but it's a good bill. It makes the people on the Democratic side stretch because they are conscious of the fact that a lot of the environmentalists are not up on the bill. That's true. But at the same time, some of my friends here on the Republican side say, well, wait a minute, it's not a perfect bill. Well, it's not, but it's a good bill, a bill that deserves your support. And yeah, you can nitpick little things, but let's not get into the gotcha moment, and that's exactly what this is, and we all know that. So let's not do that. Let's put people back to work. I flew up with a man who has kids, who has worked hard to put those kids through college, he had to move back in with one of his girls. Why? Because he couldn't afford to live on his own anymore. We can help people like him if we come together and we don't play politics on this bill. I hope you guys vote for it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Ted Lieu.
Thank you, Mr. President and Senators. Why are we jamming this bill through at the end of the session? I'm going to tell you why. Because we have 12% crushing unemployment. Those people can't wait. We need to get this done. We need to get it done now. And let me just respond to some of what some of the environmental groups have said, that this is an assault on CEQA. They are just wrong. Either they haven't read this bill or they don't understand it. We are not changing a single word or even a comma in substantive CEQA protections. The full-blown EIR process happens. Public hearings happen. The entire process happens. The only time this bill even goes into effect is if there is a lawsuit after that process is completed. And what the bill says is we will bypass the trial court, go to appellate court and have expedited review of 175 days. It could save over 3 years in litigation time and expenses. And to some of my members on the other side of the aisle, let me share you the thoughts of the LA Area Chamber of Commerce president. And he supports this bill, and he says, first, to our friends here tonight in the state legislature today, you need to put the brakes on CEQA lawsuit abuse. That's right, CEQA. The CEQA Act has discouraged investments that create jobs in our city and state. We have to stop the gaming of our judicial system. This has stopped development projects and jobs for years. I hope our Republican colleagues join us in stopping CEQA lawsuit abuse. Now, let me address why it's appropriate to do this in this context. A CEQA lawsuit before a trial court is not like other lawsuits. There is no trial. The trial court is doing exactly what the appellate courts do, which is reviewing the paper administrative record that a lead agency has already done. It really is a completely duplicative layer of review, which is why I would support expanding this bill. Senator Vargas is right, this is a big bill. I would make it bigger. I would support reducing the threshold. I would support expanding the number of projects because this is an unnecessary and duplicative layer of review that we could eliminate, and it saves judicial costs. It expedites CEQA projects without a single change to substantive environmental laws. Every year I've been here in the legislature since 2005, I have made cuts to the budget. We made cuts to state parks. We'll make additional cuts to environmental enforcement and other things environmental groups love if we don't get this economy going. And today we have a chance not just to talk about jobs, but to do something about it. Respectfully request, and I vote.
Senator Corbett.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I also rise in support of this measure. I do have to say that when I first heard this bill coming together, I did have some trepidations. I was concerned, how this process would work. I, of course, was extremely concerned that we made sure that our environmental laws were respected and used in the right way. And I do have to say I still am a little bit concerned about the use of our courts. But I have to stop after hearing the testimony in the committee this morning and earlier comments on the bill. I have come to the understanding that this is an opportunity for us to do something big. This is an opportunity for us to put people back to work. And this is an opportunity for us to show the state of California as a legislature we're willing to come together and to try something new. Now, I have been convinced to support this bill not only because of our need to put people back to work, but because of the sincerity of the authors that have been expressed in the hearing of these measures. And I am convinced that we will have the opportunity to work out some of the details that have been discussed. I heard Senator Steinberg this morning offer to pull together parties to continue to work on issues surrounding this after session ends to address those issues. And I volunteer to be part of those discussions. I am going to be very interested and concerned about how this rolls out and how this may impact the ability for people to access our courts. But I right now am saying I am committed to work with all that are here in the body to make sure that we find the resources so that we can have expedited processes, put people back to work, save our environment, and also figure out a way to make sure that our courts continue to be accessible and available for justice for all. So I rise in support. I urge you all to vote aye on this measure.
Senator Evans.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I just want to make a few comments on this. First, before I speak to the specific issues, I want to say I think conceptually this bill is going in the right direction. We in the Democratic Caucus have been talking about the need for CEQA process reform for quite a long time. And I think the idea of allowing some definition of good, clean projects that create California jobs is definitely a step in the right direction. But I have a number of concerns about this bill, and I think in large part they're because it is such a last-minute bill. And I want to talk about the judicial process that is created in this bill, and this will be the reason why I won't support it today. It creates a whole new streamlined judicial process for specific projects under CEQA, but I think it creates more problems than it's going to really solve. And one of the problems is we are literally shutting down courtrooms throughout the state of California, and this bill creates a whole new process that gets streamlined ahead of all of the other cases that are pending, but only for those who can afford to pay the price. That is not what our system of justice in these United States has been established for. It's supposed to be justice for all and equal access to justice for all, not just to those who can afford to pay the price of streamlining. And so that's my fundamental problem with this, that we're not funding the courts already and we're putting these cases to leapfrog ahead of others. The other problem is this is the court of first jurisdiction is the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal does not do fact-finding. The Court of Appeal does a legal review based upon facts that are found in the Superior Court. It's the Superior Court that is set up to find those facts, not the Court of Appeal. And CEQA cases are very fact-intensive. They involve not only the administrative record, but they involve testimony from expert witnesses, testimony from people that have participated in the CEQA process. And the Court of Appeal is not equipped to take that kind of testimony and make those findings of fact. And the appointment of a special master will not solve that problem. The other problem is that the bill requires the Court of Appeal to make a decision within 175 days of filing the petition. That does not allow for any time to compile the record. So my concern is that we're going to end up having these decisions made based upon an administrative record that may be flawed, may be faulty, and may be incomplete. So those are some problems with the judicial process that it's setting up, and I unfortunately will not be able to support the bill for those reasons.
Thank you. Senator Rubio.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, having the honor to represent the Central Valley, or the southern part of the Central Valley, which the Congressional Office of Study just came out recently that said this is the poorest region in the United States of America. I have, unfortunately, 25 communities or cities who have unemployment rates of 30% or above. 1 in 3 people cannot provide food for their family. I have waited 9 months to have this debate on this Senate floor. I want to thank the Pro Tem for bringing it forward. He's right. There comes a time in which we must seize that moment. For those on the other side that perhaps would like to criticize this, to suggest somehow this is going to employ attorneys and not construction workers, let's look at the facts, the stubborn facts. This is going to expedite the judicial review, not helping the attorneys, shortening the length of time so that the projects can move forward and that construction workers can go to work and shovels can be put into the dirt. This is very simply a bill that's going to put people to work and take the interest away from the attorneys to string out the project so that they will take a longer period of time. For the environmentalists, it keeps intact all of CEQA. So this helps that go forward. If you do not support this bill today, you simply will delay the time in which these projects can move forward, but what you will also delay is the amount of hurt and struggle that the families have who are unemployed, cannot put food on the table for their families. This is a first step. It is not perfect, but we should not allow perfection to get in the way of progress. I respectfully ask for you to support this very important measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator De Leon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe one of my colleagues here a few moments ago, I believe it was Senator Juan Vargas, if I'm correct, from San Diego, mentioned the figure 2.1 million individuals who are officially unemployed in the state of California. Let me highlight the fact that those are the official numbers. Those don't account for individuals who were never captured into the data, or those who are severely underemployed. And those 2.1 million individuals equate to, in terms of raw numbers, they equate to 12%, or I should say the raw numbers are the 2.1 million, but we're at 12%. So that means we're second highest unemployment rate in the nation. But there's a bunch of us senators on this floor who have doubled the unemployment rate, and as Senator Rubio has just articulated very eloquently, he doesn't have double the unemployment rate. He has triple or quadruple the unemployment rate in his geographical area of the state of California. So when you take California at number 2 in the nation when it comes to unemployment, the top 5 states are Nevada at number 1, California at number 2, Michigan, Florida, and yes, tiny little Rhode Island. But if you take the raw numbers of those 4 states, they cannot equate the 2.1 individuals we have unemployed in the state of California. This measure, AB 900, speaks to a larger vision as we attack the issue of unemployment in California, because this is a major job economic stimulator package for California. We have individuals right now, because what was mentioned, we have been impacted disproportionately because of the housing debacle and the crisis. What took place with derivatives and hedge funds and all that big mess in the financial crisis, we were hit disproportionately more so in California than any other place because of the housing industry and those who work in the trades, construction. This is a way to move forward, and guess what? It's temporary. It's a pilot program. It sunsets, I believe, in either 14 or 15. If it works, fantastic. We will extend it and we'll move forward. But we have to do everything possible in a bipartisan manner, Democrats as well as Republicans, to get shovel-ready projects going and off the ground. We got LEED certification here, and I want to thank the chair of the Judiciary Committee, Ms. Noreen Evans, because Ms. Noreen Evans did educate me with her concerns with regards to Superior Court and the Court of Appeals. I didn't know, because I'm not a lawyer. I have no legal training. So I thank you for giving me that primer and that education. And I read the documents that you gave me yesterday. But this is an opportunity for us to go out, if you will, with a bang and not a whimper at the end of this legislative session, to get those men and women into the jobs right now, approve these projects. There can be in Central Valley, in the Bay Area, Southern California, LA, wherever it may be at. It's not just Los Angeles centric. It is the whole state of California. And that's why I want to commend and I want to thank our pro tem, Senator Darrell Steinberg, for his vision, for his hard work during the course of the past few weeks to have a bigger idea, a bigger picture of what we can do for jobs in the state of California. I know we can't let the perfect get in the way of the good. I know not everything is perfect with regards to this measure, but colleagues on both sides of the aisle, if we can come together, we can make a major impact in the state of California. Therefore, I urge you to support AB 900 by Pro Tem Steinberg.
Senator Blakeslee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the offer to speak on this matter, and I want to lend my voice in strong support to every speech I heard. And I only wish I could vote on the speeches I just heard. Sadly, I have to vote on the bill that's before us. And the bill that's before us does not accomplish the many lofty goals I heard extolled in these marvelous speeches. Yes, it's been 9 months, and we are so happy now to be at the end of the very lengthy year and finally have a bill that purports to do something to bring jobs to California. Amen. We all want that. We desperately want that. And yes, many of us went to Labor Day events and found out, some not for the first time, that California has an employment problem. But this is the time to solve that problem. But is this the vehicle to do it? Well, it's kind of hard to say, because we only got the analysis at 3:30 this morning. Yes, we've been working on it all year, but we simply got the analysis at 3:30 in the morning. I think the remedies that are proposed in this bill are thoughtful. And I commend the authors for their hard work to devise remedies to the problems that we face, which, if they could ever be applied, would be very useful. The problem we have is the criteria required to ever get to those remedies are contradictory. And you cannot get there from here. For example, the bill states on page 4 that to qualify, it must be a project that does not require taxpayer funding. These are private projects. Fine. Except on the same page, it also says that it must be a public works project. That's line 30 on page 4. How can a project both simultaneously not require any taxpayer financing and be a public works project? Nobody applies. Good. Okay, I like the remedy, but nobody applies. Not many jobs there. How about another one? To qualify, it must be a project which is Silver LEED qualified. So obviously there's enormous work that goes on before you go through the planning process, and this expedites some of the judicial review. And to qualify, you must be LEED certified, Silver LEED certified. One little problem, you're not LEED certified until the project is done. So which projects qualify for fast tracking if they've already been done? Again, a contradiction. Now, we talked about these contradictions in committee and asked if amendments would be accepted, and were told that no, they would not be. I find that ironic and disheartening in that AB 1890, which sought to deregulate the electric system in California, was also pushed through in the last day with terrible defects. There have been many speeches and press press conferences on the evils of single sales factor, and doing that in the last day and not getting the language right. But somehow it's okay in this instance to not worry about the details and just pass the darn thing. This bill says we're going to give the governor of California the power to pick which projects will qualify. Would this body have conveyed those same powers to a Schwarzenegger? Does this body really want to surrender those powers to another entity? Maybe yes, maybe no, but that's an important detail. Another is that LEED, which is not open to a public process, will essentially have the power to make tremendous determinations as to what qualifies or doesn't qualify. Very curious for a legislature which is fighting for openness to now give such powers and delegate such authority to a non-government and non-open system for making decisions that are terribly important. So I sadly rise in opposition, not because I oppose the speeches I just heard or the heartfelt intent of those who delivered them, but because this is a really poorly written bill which won't create a single job in California. I sadly urge a no vote.
Senator Pavley.
Yes, I was going to rise and just try to be productive in making suggestions to the working group to make the concept behind the bill, and the concepts I do support. There are several sort of loose ends, so to speak, that could be done in a timely measure so that not to delay getting Californians back to work, but actually to better focus the intent of this bill and have it this new bill that's supposed to be in preprint, subject to discussions in a working group, pass in time to go into effect sort of simultaneously with this bill in January of 2012. I'd like the working group, whoever you are, to reconsider what the Committee of Jurisdiction is. It's a joint legislative budget committee. I think you could set up a joint legislative committee, maybe the key people like the chair of environmental quality or Assembly Natural Resources, for the purpose of the length of this bill, and that's two years or until January 1st, 2015, that they seem to have a better understanding perhaps of the expedited review kinds of issues associated with this bill regarding CEQA than perhaps the Joint Budget Committee. I'd also like the working group to consider whether it might be even more productive in putting maximum number of people back to work the quickest to put in those people who have already begun the scoping plan and the draft EIR process. That means, one, they've chosen a location and a site. Two, they've already invested capital. They're committed to the project because they've already begun the EIR process. That would make it probably within the next year, because of the expedited judicial review, that those projects will be going out the door. I think that would be even a quicker way to put Californians back to work. For projects yet to be determined, they're still in a long way off because there is no shortening of the EIR process, as well there shouldn't be. But that's longer. Let's look at the short term. We're trying to incentivize people getting back to work as quickly as possible during this recession that seems to be going on as well, longer than any of us anticipated when it began after the collapse of the housing market and mortgage and banking problems that led to it. There are problems in this bill that can be corrected through the working group process that should be timed, again, in conjunction with the July 1st, 2012 implementation of AB 900. The way it's written on lead requirements isn't really technically correct. That language needs to be changed. Is there a better standard? That's something to discuss about. There was a provision before on requirement of local mitigation of impacts. That was taken out, and the bill couldn't be amended today for a variety of reasons. So at this point in time, I think collectively, concepts in this bill that need to be worked on should be a high priority for all of us. This is a rough outline and perhaps a leap of faith, but it's a significant piece of legislation. I think I'm more comfortable with the football bill just because you know what the project is. We're not sure what eligible projects are out there and how many across the state and what it exactly means. So good luck to the working group, and I would be glad to join those members who wish to spend some time on making sure this is implemented to the benefit of all Californians.
Thank you. Senator Kehoe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I just want to rise briefly to say that I think I want to acknowledge that this is a controversial bill. It's a challenging bill, but I think it's an important bill because it is attempting to deal with the crisis that California is in right now. And I think that Senator Steinberg has really risen to the occasion of providing a framework, a 2-year framework that will attempt to jumpstart significant investment in the state. This is not a proposal that rolls on forever. It's good until January 1, 2015. And in doing that, it means that investors, developers, or whoever's doing the business project, who's ever backing the business project, is going to have to step up right now and get the work underway, get it planned and designed and under construction. And that is the key thing for me. Like many of the people that have spoken today on the floor, I consider myself a strong supporter of our environmental laws, and I think that our environmental laws have been an economic boon to California for decades. Our clean air and water, our beaches, the preservation of our forests and mountains, the variety of our terrain here, it's worldwide. California is a brand name because of our lifestyle and how enjoyable this state is. I think that the protections embodied in the bill keep that commitment, and I think that's so important to me personally, and it's why I can support the bill and still have it balanced with the incentive to create jobs and investment in the state almost immediately. So I would ask for your aye vote.
Senator Anderson for the second time.
Thank you. It was mentioned by a colleague of ours earlier today that this potentially is a gotcha moment. I want to just revisit what I said. It's not a gotcha moment. It's 1:30. We still have some time. Our colleague from San Luis Obispo laid out some real issues with this bill, all fixable. I want to vote for it. I want to support it. We want to put people back to work. But we can't put out a product that we know is going to get tied up in the courts because it's ambiguous. Let's straighten it out. We've got time. Let's pull together and show Californians that we can work together, that jobs are important. I want to be there. I want to be on this bill. I want to support it. I'm giving you a pathway. Let's pull together and let's get it done. Thank you.
Senator Dutton.
You know, everybody that's up here during their legislative career ends up having to make some really tough decisions. Sometimes they're involving taxpayers' dollars. Sometimes it's policy. Sometimes it's a leap of faith. You know, when we started down this process, I was actually one of the ones that was always kind of looking towards some type of protection with regards to projects that are being done in the state from the frivolous lawsuits and abuse of a system, the CEQA system, that process that was supposed to actually was there for good reasons and for good things. And if unfortunately it gets abused. Now, the GOP 5 earlier this year, frankly, CEQA was one of their primary things that they wanted to work on. There's actually legislation they proposed, and I certainly promoted it. I felt it was critical to the job creation and to rebuild our economy. I got mixed feelings right now about whether to go forward with a bill I know is less than perfect, that needs a lot of work, and frankly would be vastly improved. And President Pro Tem, I would urge you that if you go forward with this, that if you want to have an immediate impact on jobs, that you at least got to amend it to include ERIs that are in process, because that's a 2 to 3 year process right there. And if you want to really end up having an impact on immediate jobs, you got to get it. You got to get them going now, and we can't wait for another 3 years here. So I'm going to go ahead and take that leap of faith, because I really feel like we need to work on something. I'm getting tired of watching the unemployment rate stay above the national average. I'm tired of seeing tremendous investment opportunities. And even though if this fails and it turns out to just be a worthless effort, at least I can say I tried. And so I'm going to take that leap of faith and hope that we can make this into something that's worthwhile. I will be supporting it, but that is a decision I make as an individual and somebody who just feels that I just got to try.
Senator Harman.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President Pro Tem, I do have several questions. If you allow me, I'm just going to read 2 or 3 off and then conclude by saying, why can't we do amendments today on some of these issues? I heard Senator Vargas, I believe it was, said that he would like to see it applied to currently pending projects. Almost everyone on our side of the aisle wants to do that. I heard Senator Dutton just moments ago voice those strong recommendations. And so, as Senator Anderson said, it's 1:30 in the afternoon. We've got time. We've worked till midnight before on other occasions. If it takes that long, let's do it. Let's get it done right, and let's get it into this bill. That's point one. I heard Senator Ted Lieu say he would support lower thresholds. I think there should be lower thresholds that could apply to projects smaller than $100 million. We could perhaps quickly come to some agreement on a lower threshold. I also am very inclined to agree with Senator Evans about the ability of the Court of Appeals to act as a fact-finding body. There, as you're an attorney, Mr. Pro Tem, the Court of Appeals, frankly, I believe, is not equipped to handle this type of a situation. I know, yes, they can appoint a special master, and the master can do it, but they're not typically, as you well know, a fact-finding body. So somehow we've got to figure out how that's going to work, and then you superimpose on that the burden that the courts are currently under with the tremendous cuts they've had in their budget. $350 million this year is taken away from the courts. They're struggling, and here we're going to put this expedited process on them. So those are some of the ideas that I'm wondering why we can't fix it now. And then I think the fourth question deals with this working group, which is not in the bill, but is something, as I understand it, that you and the author of the bill have more or less promised to create. Can you give us some guidelines of who will be on this working group? Will it be private parties? Will it be members of the environmental community, the business community, limited to legislators?
Sure.
And time is of the essence, as we all know. We want to get people back to work. We want to get these projects underway. I don't want to see the working group appointed and then they're squabbling and fighting and pointing fingers for weeks and months and perhaps years. Can't we put a deadline? I'm just thinking off the top of my head, as this super committee back in Washington, D.C. is under some kind of a deadline. You got to get it done by then. All of those things seem to me could be put into this bill, and if they were in there, I think that there would be bipartisan support. I think we can work across the aisle and get this done. So if you would, sir, answer those questions for me.
May I, Mr. President, as part of my close, respond to
Is there any further debate or discussion? Mr. Steinberg, you may close.
Thank you. I'd be happy in my close to respond to Senator Harman's questions, because I think they really form the basis of the debate. And by the way, I think it was a great debate. I think not only am I hopeful we're going to pass a big bill in the next few moments, but I think we've also stoked a lot of interest, excitement, and conversation about how we in fact get people to work. So the fundamental concern that I hear is, why not more projects? Why not current projects? Why not lower the threshold from $100 million to something lower? Let me, in context, to state the obvious. In a few minutes, we're going to pass, I believe, SB 292. That will give the authority for one project in Southern California to be able to qualify for this 2.5 to 3 year time saver when it comes to potential litigation. If we don't pass this bill, that's all we will have, one project. The language in the bill is pretty broad. Any land use project that meets the criteria, any renewable energy project, any clean manufacturing project with a threshold of $100 million. I will tell you that I am excited about this concept, because I believe it is a way for Democrats and Republicans and for California to kind of cross those sensitive intersections and to push reform together in a way that doesn't violate the underlying environmental quality law, but says, look, on the litigation front, things have to move faster. So I'm open to your suggestions, and that's just not, politicians saying I'm open to your suggestions. I'm open to your suggestion. And when I talk about a working group, I envision members. That's what I think. Democrats and Republicans. We'll talk to the other House, of course. We'll not only convene that working group right away, but I'll also put a bill in so-called preprint for next session with the ideas that we have heard here today. And, sorry, we're getting closer. I'll keep talking. And we will build upon this. But remember, we're starting with nothing except for 292, which will pass, I'm pretty confident, in several minutes. So let's build a strong, and it's a big foundation. Originally I thought with this bill, I was going to do something that said 6 projects. Then someone said, now we ought to do 8 or 10. There is no limit on the projects, albeit you're looking to make it more encompassing, but there's no limit on the number of projects contained within. That's what I envision about the working group and taking some of the issues that you say. In terms of the Court of Appeal, we work closely with the Judicial Council. They can charge a fee to deal with the work. Remember that we are also reducing the workload of the Superior Court at the same time because they won't be hearing these cases originally. And I appreciate Senator Dutton's comments. Let's take the leap together. Boy, we sure fought enough this year. We sure had enough disagreements. Let's end this session. Let's end the session on a high note here and come together on something that is a foundation for something maybe even much larger. I urge your aye vote on this bill. Thank you.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. Berryhill. Blakesley. No. Calderon. Aye. Cannella. Aye. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Aye. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Dutton. Aye. Emerson. Evans. No. Fuller. No. Gaines. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. Aye. Kehoe. Aye. LaMalfa. No. Leno. Aye. Tedlew. Aye. Carolou. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Price.
Aye.
Aye. Rubio. Aye. Runner. Smidian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. Aye. Vargas. Aye. Walters. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Aye. Wyland. No. Yee. Yee. Aye. Anderson. No. Huff. Ida. No. DeSaulnier. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Emerson. Aye. Berryhill. Aye. Harmon. Aye. Runner. Aye.
Call the absent members.
Walters.
Ayes 32, noes 7. On the urgency, ayes 32, noes 7 on the measure. Measure passes. Okay, we will go now to item 40. Item 40, SB 292. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 292 by Senator Padilla, an accolade to environmental quality.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I think a lot of us, if not verbally, certainly mentally, referenced this bill during the previous item and our discussion and debate. I want to begin this presentation specifically by thanking both the Speaker of the Assembly for...
Members, please.
If we can see a yellow flag, please. I believe the pro tem is celebrating in the end zone a little too emphatically here. We'll assess that penalty on the kickoff. I want to thank, first of all, the Pro Tem for his support of the advancement of this bill. I want to thank the Speaker of the Assembly for his leadership and his vision in convening a task force of legislators and stakeholders several weeks ago to help craft the language of the bill. And in this House, I also want to take a moment to thank Senator Strickland for the tremendous support and active involvement that he's had with the advancement of 292. Colleagues, as we spoke more generally in the previous item, with this bill, we have a specific, incredible opportunity. Our support of this bill today would help pave the way for the construction of the most environmentally friendly sports stadium in the country and would help put thousands upon thousands of Californians back to work sooner rather than later. This bill would allow for a thorough yet expeditious judicial review of a project known as the Los Angeles Convention and Events Center upon the completion of a full environmental impact report. While this legislation is created to create jobs, and literally we're talking more than 10,000 jobs during the construction phase of these projects alone, more than 10,000 jobs that are permanent post-construction. We're seeking to do so while absolutely maintaining California's precious environmental protection laws. Specifically, this bill would continue to require a full EIR to be completed for the project. This bill would also allow for an expedited judicial review of the completed EIR at the Court of Appeals, specifically within 175 days of the completed report. This bill would set a new standard for both environmental review and protections by requiring that the project result in air emission neutrality by the end of the first NFL season played at the stadium, with no less than 10% less car trip emissions than any other football stadium in America. This bill would require that the environmental mitigation objectives required by the bill not only be achieved, but also maintained. The bill would require that the environmental mitigation measures committed to in this bill be supplemental, be above and beyond the current environmental requirements. So in no way are we displacing CEQA requirements. In no way are we displacing any required mitigations as a result of the EIR. It's a big bill, what I thought was a bold and ambitious bill. I like to think that in many ways this bill and the conversations around it help pave the way for a bigger and broader bill that this body just passed. I also want to take a moment to thank Senator Joe Simitian, who as chair of our Senate's Environmental Quality Committee spoke eloquently last night, and if I can paraphrase, Senator Simitian stated that CEQA is a body of law that has and continues to protect the well-being of all Californians, and we need to be very careful when we tinker with it, if we tinker with it. This bill, Senator Simitian speaking to SB 292, says it strikes a great balance and takes care not to change any CEQA processes. The bill says there is no exemption, but rather it lets us move a project through the judicial review process sooner rather than later. Lastly, this bill clarifies that nothing in this bill affects the project's ongoing obligations pursuant to CEQA, or any additional court or CEQA approval costs brought about by the expedition of any potential litigation will be paid by the applicant. This bill passed the Assembly just yesterday on a vote of 63 to 13, overwhelming bipartisan support. And as I've mentioned on a couple of occasions now, I believe has also contributed to California policy, leadership, and economic recovery by inspiring the broader bill that we recently voted upon. The framework of this bill, the framework of the previous bill are consistent and balanced. We can move forward mega projects in the state of California, providing economic stimulus through massive job creation while protecting our environment and our environmental laws in California. I ask for your aye vote.
Senator Strickland.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I just like to first open up and say it was a pleasure working with Senator Padilla on this bill. He's done a remarkable job representing Los Angeles, San Fernando Valley, and Southern California. It's been an honor working with him on this particular measure. This measure is extremely important for Southern California and overall California because, as I said in the previous bill, we're in a crisis situation and we're talking about jobs. Here's a project, members, where most investors are taking their money outside of California. Well, we have an investor that's actually reaching in his pocket and moving forward and putting $1.2 billion in our local economy. What does that mean? That means we're going to create 23,000 jobs off this one project alone, and that's just direct jobs. Not to mention what it would mean for downtown LA and the convention center. We have an old convention center in Los Angeles. And when we try to compete to get more of those conventions in Southern California, we don't get those. And by doing this project and expediting this system, what we're going to do is be able to attract those conventions that, again, will complete and get more jobs and economic impact to, people who are really just trying to find a job. And as a sports fan, I think it's a travesty as a Southern California resident that we haven't had a football team in Los Angeles, second biggest media market in the nation, for over 16, 17 years. Think about that, members. Most of your sophomore and junior high schoolers have never had a football team to root for in Los Angeles. So with everything that's coming in with the hotels, with the stadium, the football, but not only that, we're going to be able to attract the Final Four, big boxing matches, the Super Bowl. We're creating jobs. To me, this is a no-brainer, and I'm just honored that on my Republican side, my caucus has heard me speak to you quite extensively on this matter, and I thank you for backing me up on this project. And again, it's been a pleasure to work with Senator Padilla, and I urge your aye vote.
Senator Gaines.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I want to thank Senator Padilla for bringing this legislation forward, and Senator Strickland for all the effort that you've led within our caucus. And it's a very exciting opportunity for us. I think this, coupled with AB 900, while there are challenges that we need to work through, I see a great opportunity for the state of California in turning this economy around, working on job creation, which is so critical. And when we even take a look at 9/11 as we approach the 10th anniversary, I had the opportunity to see on television the great vision that they have for Ground Zero, and that there is an opportunity for renewal and an opportunity to turn this economy around. So I'm going to cheer on this bipartisan effort. I'm going to support this legislation, and I hope we can do more good things in the future. Thank you.
Senator Wyland.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also would like to join in the thanks to Senator Padilla and Senator Strickland. I rise in strong support of this legislation for all the reasons that we've discussed. I would only add that if we want to know how to add more jobs and more economic investment, and coincidentally, more public revenue, we need to hear from business, every sector, large and small, what they need. And the story will be different from different ones. But I would suggest that regulatory reform, even more dramatic, I understand and appreciate the support of the previous legislation, but even more dramatic regulatory reform, some of it retroactive rather than prospective, is what they will say they need. When Intel creates $7 or $8 or $9 billion of new chip factories in other states, and I just use them because they're iconic, they will tell you that they can build those factories there in a year, and here it's 3 to 4 years, multiple lawsuits. We're obviating a great deal of that in this process. I'm pleased that we're doing it anywhere in California. I don't care whether it's the Bay Area or Los Angeles, because we're all linked and joined at the hip. I just hope once we begin this process, which I really look forward to, that we can turn our attention to more jobs by asking those job creators. I urge support of this legislation.
Ted Lieu.
Thank you, Mr. President, Senators. I rise to support this bill for the same reason I support AB 900, because we are not changing a single word or comma or semicolon in substantive CEQA protections. I also commend the environmental groups that support this bill, such as CLCV and NRDC. They have figured out you cannot be anti-business all the time, and this is a bill that works because it is pro-business without harming environmental regulations. And I just need to walk people through again the current law dealing with CEQA lawsuits. It is not a normal lawsuit. There is no trial before the Superior Court. There are no witnesses. There are no expert witnesses. There are no witnesses that are even called. The trial court is acting exactly like an appellate court. So you basically have two appellate reviews, of which the trial court is entirely duplicative. We're eliminating that. That is a good thing. Good projects are going to go through like this one. Respectfully request, and I vote.
Senator De Leon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to discuss SB 292, and I want to give credit and recognition to Speaker John Perez also too for his leadership on this measure. I want to recognize Senator Alex Padilla as well for his strong leadership, his continuity on this measure. This is one of the most talked about measures in the last few weeks, and it's no strange reason why. Again, as we discussed with AB 900, it's because unemployment, and we've got to put men and women to work. And this is a project that, without a doubt, is a mega project, because when you peel the layers, it's not about sports, if you will, the NFL, because in truth, they play about 14 games, seven of them are on the home field. It's about the convention center and construction. It's about entertainment. You know, Senator Tony Strickland just articulated, it's about the Westminster Dog Show, it's about the ice skating, it's about soccer, it's about basketball championships, it's about everything else, a lot of other things too. That brings money, investment, that brings construction dollars, restaurants, hotel, that helps revive an economy, a city, a region. And we know that this region in California has been hard hit, and that's why it's important. I had a select committee on sports and entertainment on this issue 2 weeks ago, where Senator Kerwin Price, Senator Bill Emerson, Senator Tony Strickland were so kind enough, as well as Senator Alex Padilla and Senator Gil Cedillo, to participate. And one of the stories that stayed with me, and I believe strongly that it stayed with the senators who participated in this event, was the story of Johnny Verduzco. Johnny Verduzco is an iron worker, Local 416. That's rebar. That's when you start building and constructing. Those are those steel iron poles, if you will. That is reinforcing steel. And Johnny Verduzco's been out of job for 2.5 years. He has 2 children, and he's married, and he lost his house, and he lost his car. And after hearing in Local 416 iron workers in the Southern California region that the average unemployment rate of these rank-and-file members is hovering around 45%, not 12% in the aggregate, but when you disaggregate the data, it is 45% unemployment. It leaves you with an empty pit feeling in your stomach. And as we move forward with this project, as it gets off the ground, and I know there's been a narrative written and drafted largely by other folks who oppose this project of AEG and a billionaire, I will say one thing. This has been one developer who by far and large has followed through on his promise. Whether it's been to the community, whether it's been to the city, whether it's been to nonprofit organizations, he has followed through. I want to commend Senator Fran Pavley as well, because Fran Pavley has underscored the need for localized pollution impacts. and how we brought about carbon neutrality on this measure, that anything that is scored or any type of offset will be done in a manner that's localized in the most impacted areas, which is there in Southern California. It'll be a lead project, as has been articulated, and then again, I'm a strong supporter of this measure. Now that I see Speaker John Perez, who's here on the floor, again, I want to reiterate, I want to thank him for his leadership on this measure. Mr. Steinberg, thank you for your leadership on this measure. And again, colleagues, I ask for your support on SB 292.
Senator LaMalfa.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of this bill. I like to see a good collaborative process like this that can be a template for further improvements and gains on how to get projects done in California. It is about jobs. I would just ask for the bill author here to just give me a pledge that when this stadium is built that you don't swipe any Northern California sports teams to fill that stadium. I ask your vote.
Senator Cannella.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of this measure, and I will tell you I was initially a very hard sell. I've worked very hard these last several months on what I consider more comprehensive CEQA reform, which I believe would get more people back to work. So when this bill first materialized, I wasn't going to support it, quite frankly. And because of the work by Mr. Tony Strickland and his constant education of the issue to me and how important it was for not only his district but also for the state of California, I changed my mind. So, Senator Strickland, thank you for your hard work, and because of your efforts and the efforts of others, I'm going to support this bill. Thank you.
Senator Kehoe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I unfortunately can't support this bill because I think, as a San Diegan, it's not the best approach. The reason I liked AB 900 is because every area of the state had a shot at benefiting from that bill. And I think that is the approach we should take. The Los Angeles Downtown Football Stadium is a great idea. It's absolutely in the right place. Los Angeles is a premier city in the best state in the best country, and they can absolutely do this. The way the bill is structured, it's a one project, one company bill, and I don't like that. And more than that, it is could easily be an escape route for our own football team, the San Diego Chargers, to leave my city and go to Los Angeles. The NFL looks at the whole chessboard when they make these deals, and there's no protections in it for San Diego. I wish that it were otherwise, but as it stands now, it's not a bill I can support, and I would urge a no vote.
Senator Hancock.
I rise, Mr. President, to associate myself with the remarks of Senator Kehoe. I did support SB 900. It is a comprehensive approach that allows every part of the state to participate. Representing the East Bay of the San Francisco Bay, we also have a football team that has been prominently mentioned, actually, in news releases about the stadium as one of the places that they may try to go for a football team. That would be a job shift, not a creation of jobs. It would, I think that it is better not to do one-site carve-outs. It is better to do good public policy. So I will be voting no as well.
Senator Steinberg.
Thank you. I just want to make very brief comments. Just to thank Senator Padilla for rolling up his sleeves and doing great work, to Senator Strickland the same, and to Speaker Perez. And I want to acknowledge that the previous debate we had on AB 900, would not have been in a position to occur had the speakers, Senator Padilla, Senator Strickland, and others worked so hard over so many months to give us the template to get to where we are today. I want to say thank you and urge an aye vote.
Any further debate or discussion? Senator Wyland, again.
I know this has been a long debate, but I'd just like to, at least for the Senate, I'd like to add one other thing. I think I understand the desire of those who are very concerned about the environment, traffic, and all those things to not start down a slippery slope. But here's the reality. I've worked with and employed lots of working people. I know what it's like to have to lay them off. I know what it's like to see the look in their face. I know what it's like to know their families and know how hard it is to get another job. I know what it's like for them when they find out how expensive it is to maintain health insurance, what COBRA means. We're talking about actual, not just the physical stadium and the economic benefits that will bring to, and I want it for San Diego too. I want it everywhere. That would be ideal. But if it's in Los Angeles, it helps all of us. It creates the revenue that we're so concerned about. And it is about those individual people and their families. That's a big deal. We need to support this for those people at a time when 2 million Californians are out of work. And we're going to get an enormous economic benefit. It's clear that we need, I believe, to support this bill. I hope we have more like it.
Any further debate or discussion? Senator Padilla, you may close.
Very much. I want to thank all members who spoke on this item from both sides of the aisle, even the few who rose to state that they can't be supportive of the bill. I want to close by making sort of 3 points. One is, for my colleagues from other parts of the state who have a concern, what does this mean for the team in or near my district? I just want to be abundantly clear that that's not what we're deciding today. Only the NFL and the owners and their committees will decide what teams move to this facility if it's indeed chosen ultimately to host a football team or teams, plural. But I will try to assure you with the following. It may be hard to grasp if you're not as familiar with the part of Los Angeles that we speak of. But the sheer scale and magnitude of this project will be felt statewide, if in no other way, from an economic standpoint. The number of jobs that we're talking to, the level of salaries and tax revenues to state and local governments that this project will trigger between the stadium, convention center, hotels, and additional retail and entertainment in that greater vicinity are so significant, we will feel that bump throughout the state. And last but not least, we've had our battles and a few victories in the last several weeks, and we observe our federal counterparts in Congress having similar, very, very difficult discussions about the economy and recovery. Let this be an example, and the previous item be an example, that yes, the state of California is able to come together. Both sides of the aisle are able to still come together and accomplish great things to the benefit of the people of the state. I ask your I vote.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Alquist. I. Anderson. Berryhill. I. Blakesley. I. Calderon. I. Canella. I. Corbett. I. Correa. I. De Leon. I. DeSaulnier. Dutton. I. Emerson. Evans. No. Fuller. I. Gaines. I. Hancock. No. Harmon. I. Hernandez. I. Huff. No. Kehoe. No. LaMalfa. I. Leno. No. Ted Lieu. I. Carol Lieu. I. Lowenthal. I. Negrete McLeod. I. Padilla. I. Pavley. I. Price.
Aye.
I. Rubio. I. Runner. I. Samedian. I. Steinberg. I. Strickland. I. Vargas. Walters. I. Wolk. No. Wright. I. Wyland. I. Yee. Yee, aye. Anderson, aye. Emerson, aye. DeSaulnier, no.
Call the absent members.
Vargas.
Call the absent members.
Vargas.
Ayes 32, no 7. The Assembly amendments are concurred with. Motions and resolutions, members. Motions and resolutions. Okay, members, there's a letter at the desk requesting withdrawal of Assembly Bill 1094. AB 1094 will be withdrawn from third reading and ordered to the Rules Committee. There is an objection. Call the roll.
Alquist. I. Anderson. I. Berryhill. No. Blakesley. Calderon. I. Canella. No. Corbett. I. Correa. I. De Leon. I. DeSaulnier. I. Dutton. No. Emerson. Evans. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Hancock. Harmon. No. Hernandez. I. Huff. No. Kehoe. I. LaMalfa. No. Leno. I. Ted Lieu. I. Carol Lieu. I. Lowenthal. I. Negrete McLeod. I. Padilla. I. Pavley. I. Price.
Aye.
I. Rubio. Runner. No. Semidian. I. Steinberg. Strickland. No. Vargas. I. Walters. No. Wolk. I. Wright. I. Wyland. No. Yee. Yee. I. Blakesley. No. Anderson. I. No. Hancock. I. Evans. I.
Call the absent members.
Emerson. No. Rubio. I. Steinberg.
Ayes 24, noes 15. The measure is withdrawn. Members, there's a letter at the desk requesting withdrawal of Assembly Bill 506. AB 506 will be withdrawn from the Rules Committee and ordered to third reading. Is there any objection? Okay. Any objection to applying the previous unanimous roll call? Is there objection? Call the. Yes, he said. Secretary, call the roll. Senator.
We would be agreeable to using the prior roll call on this.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Without objection. Members, there's a letter at the desk requesting withdrawal of AB 1150. AB 1150 will be withdrawn from Rules Committee in order to third reading. Is there any objection with using the previous roll call?
Mr. President, we would be agreeable to that as long as it is the previous roll call, not the one that was the unanimous roll call.
Okay, previous roll call. So ordered. Members, Senate Rule 29.3B will be suspended for AB 1069. Without objection, we'll apply the previous roll call.
Same request, prior roll call.
Correct. Members, there's a letter at the desk requesting withdrawal of AB 1069. AB 1069 will be withdrawn from rules and ordered to third reading.
Same objection, prior roll call.
Okay, without objection, we'll apply the previous roll call. Members, there's a letter at the desk requesting withdrawal of AB 391. AB 391 will be withdrawn from rules and ordered to third reading.
Previous roll call, please.
Without objection, we'll apply the previous roll call. Members, Senate Rule 29.3B will be suspended for AB 1094. Without objection?
Previous roll call.
We'll apply the previous roll call. Members, there are 3 Assembly bills on the second reading, file AB 378, 621, and 983. We will suspend Senate Rule 92.3 so that the measures are properly before the Senate. Senate Rule 29.3. Without objection? All right. Okay, we're back on Assembly third reading. Item 50. Senator Padilla, Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 375 by Assemblymember Skinner, enacting to workers' compensation.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Members, you'll remember this item from yesterday. The bill came just shy of sufficient votes for passage, with a couple of members absent at the time. This bill would create equity for frontline hospital employees by establishing a disputable presumption under workers' compensation for hospital workers who develop a blood-borne infectious disease or MRSA infection during the person's employment at a hospital. It only applies to employees who provide direct patient care in acute care hospitals. I ask your aye vote.
Any debate or discussion, members? Senator Emerson.
Mr. President and members, I rise in opposition to this bill. We're extending a presumption to the private sector, and I think that's a bad precedent, and I ask for a no vote.
Any further debate or discussion? Secretary, please call the roll.
Alquist? Aye. Anderson? No. Berryhill? No. Blakesley? Calderon? No. Canella? No. Corbett? Aye. Correa? De Leon? Aye. DeSaulnier? Aye. Dutton? No. Emerson? No. Evans? Aye. Fuller? No. Gaines? No. Hancock? Aye. Harmon? No. Hernandez? Aye. Huff? No. Kehoe? Aye. LaMalfa? No. Leno? Aye. Ted Lieu? Carol Lieu? Aye. Lowenthal? Aye. Negrete McLeod? Padilla?
Aye.
Aye. Pavley? Aye. Price?
Aye.
Aye. Rubio? Runner? No. Semidian? Aye. Steinberg? Strickland? Vargas? Aye. Walters? No. Wolk? Aye. Wright? Wyland? No. Yee? Yee aye. Strickland no.
Call the absent members.
Blakesley? No. Correa? Ted Lieu? Aye. Negrete McLeod? Rubio? Steinberg? Wright?
Call the absent members.
Correa? Negrete McLeod? Rubio? Steinberg? Wright?
I'll call.
Call the absent members.
And then let me do my two SBs and then I'll go back on. Is that all right?
Ayes 19, noes 16. Senator Padilla moves the call. Okay. Senator Kehoe. Oh, okay. Senator Padilla, item 53. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 350 by Assemblymember Solario, enacting to employment.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, this bill, too, you'll recall from yesterday, AB 350 seeks to expand job stability to workers who maintain and secure building properties and other job classifications by by maintaining the 60-day retention period for successor contractors when a building changes ownership. But we believe this bill is balanced by providing for the successor contractors some new flexibility included in this law that does not exist in current state law. including allowing successor contractors to determine how many workers they need going forward, which workers they want to retain based upon job performance criteria, how much the workers are paid, and their benefits, and after a retention period, clarifying that employment shall be at will, under which the employee may be terminated without cause. Yesterday, Senator Correa raised some issues regarding potential legacy employees with possible criminal records. I believe we addressed those questions specifically, and I've also been reminded in the last 24 hours that any such security employee with appropriate violations or felonies would lose a security guard card and therefore be ineligible to maintain that level of employment. I ask your aye vote.
Any debate or discussion? Senator Dutton.
Yeah, Mr. President and members, it never fails to amaze me. We just talk about the urgency for creating jobs. We even just got done with a couple pieces of legislation that might do that. And then you have a bill like this come up. Now, here's what newspapers up and down the state of California are saying about it, AB 350. San Francisco Chronicle, unfair, unwise, impractical. The Sacramento Bee, unreasonable, unfair, unnecessary. The Examiner, yet another perverse job-killing bill. Fresno Bee, just plain wrong. Press Enterprise, special interest handout. Bakersfield, nonsense bill hurts business, limits workers. Oakland Tribune, simply wrong. The Contra Costa Times, unreasonable anti-business measure. And then the Union Tribune, extreme intrusion. You know, these are papers up and down the entire state, a lot of our districts. Just vote no.
Any further debate or discussion? Senator Padilla, Senator Wright, excuse me, Senator Wright.
The concern I have, and I mean, this may be on call, so I'll have time to verify what my understanding is. In discussions that I've had with some of the advocates for the bill, the concern I had was whether or not the owner of the building was bound by the terms of the bill, in this case, AB 350. That is to say that if I acquire a building, or if I'm selling a building, or if I simply change contractors, does this make the terms of this law applicable to me? What was explained to me by the advocates is that this is intended to be a rule onto the contractors and not a rule onto the building owners. So we were discussing a couple of things, a letter to the Journal, again, for me to be comfortable, it might require an amendment. But I wanted to say, if it is a cause of action that would be binding on the owner, either the new owner or the current owner of the building, that would give me pause. If we're talking about the contractor, then the contractor would have a relationship with those workers, and there ought to be a protection for the workers with that contractor. Now, obviously, if there's no place for them to work, if the owner of the building terminates the contract, that creates something, and there ought to be an opportunity for the owner to say, I'd like to retain the employees that have been working for me. So I think this is going to be on call for a while anyway. I'd like to look that information up before I commit to it. But I voted no the other day. But if it is a contractor-worker law versus an owner of the building law, then that would move me to support the measure.
Okay, members, any further debate or discussion? Senator Padilla, you may close.
Thank you very much. I want to acknowledge Senator Wright's comments and just let him know that my understanding is the author has committed to addressing that specific question and concern through a letter to the Journal. So I do indeed, that would suffice to allay Senator Wright's concerns. You know, the one thing I mentioned yesterday and I failed to mention in today's presentation of the bill is that this isn't just a labor bill or a jobs or job retention bill. But for me, given that it's not too often that we either at the state or local level employ this retention approach via legislation, one of the additional factors for me is absolutely safety. As we're on the verge of a 10th anniversary tribute to the men and women who lost their lives on 9/11 back in 2001, to the many brave men and women who are serving to protect our country around the world, but especially to the tributes of a lot of first responders in the event of major incidents. There's a whole category of individuals who are smack in between an incident and the first responders. And that's security personnel who are already on site, be it an office building, be it a critical element of our nation's infrastructure, be it whatever type of facility it is. These are the people with experience and expertise and intimate familiarity with the physical and security attributes of a facility. And so I do believe there's inherent value to make sure that the people with that knowledge and expertise are kept on during a transition period from one contract to the next, or one owner to the next, in addition to the job retention concerns that this bill seeks to address. I ask for your aye vote.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. No. Berryhill. No. Blakeslee. No. Calderon. Canella. No. Corbett. Aye. Correa. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. Emerson. No. Evans. Aye. Fuller. No. Gaines. No. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. No. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. Kehoe. Aye. Lamalfa. No. Leno. Aye. Tedlew. Aye. Carolou. Lowenthal. Negrete McLeod. Padilla. Aye. Aye. Pavley. Price.
Aye.
Aye. Rubio. No. Runner. No. Semidian. Aye. Steinberg. Strickland. No. Vargas. Aye. Walters. No. Wolk. Wright. Wyland. No. Yee.
Call the absent members.
Huff, no. Calderon. Correa. Dutton. Carolou. Lowenthal. Negrete McLeod. Pavley. Steinberg. Wolk. Wright. Yee.
Ayes 14, noes 15. Senator Padilla moves the call. Item number 1.
Mr. President.
Senator Padilla, Secretary, please read. No, I'm sorry.
Mr. President, request to move item 49, which is AB 1073, to the inactive file at the request of the author.
49 to the inactive file. Without objection. Okay. Item 1, Senator DeSaulnier.
Hang on, he's in the press bag. Okay, they need him on the floor. He's got an item. Yeah, he just.
Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 378 by Assembly Member Solario enacting to workers' compensation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sorry about that. Members, you remember we picked this up a few days ago, a variation of this bill. It has to do with workers' compensation and pharmacy costs. If you remember, we actually had an attempt last session to do something about controlling these costs and dispensing of pharmaceutical properties by some physicians. Amendments taken in the meantime.
Excuse me, members, can we have some order, please?
Amendments taken in the meantime have removed almost all the opposition, including the California Medical Association. It still has the support of the California Federation of Labor, the California Chamber of Commerce, CSAC, and the League of Cities. With these amendments, removes, I believe, the most significant opposition to this bill that's, again, supported by the Chamber and labor groups. It'll help us control our workers' compensation costs and take care of a few providers in the medical field who were charging rates that we believe were beyond the cost of the drugs or reasonable return on the cost. So with that, I will ask for your aye vote.
Any debate or discussion? Senator Emerson.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. Question of the floor manager.
Without objection.
Yes, sir.
Does this remove the opposition of the California Medical Association and the other medical groups?
It removes the opposition of the CMA, the Medical Association. Yes.
Thank you.
Senator Strickland.
That was a trick question.
I want to rise in support of this measure, and I want to thank the author for taking those amendments. I also want to thank our leader, Bob Dutton, for pushing really hard to do whatever we can to make this a better bill. And again, this is an example of bipartisanship and getting a better product out of the floor. So again, I want to thank the author and urge my colleagues to vote aye on this important measure.
Any further debate or discussion? Senator LaMalfa.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, want to echo Senator Strickland's statements on that. This is how you can pull together and get a good job done. This is still has good protections for abuse, but is a fair, all-around outcome for the doctors themselves. So I appreciate the efforts by the author, floor manager, and everybody coming together to do a good piece of legislation. Thank you.
Any further debate or discussion, members? Senator DeSaulnier, you may close.
It's always a pleasure to have Senator LaMalfa and Emerson and Strickland in support. I'd ask for your aye vote.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. Aye. Berryhill. Aye. Blakesley. Aye. Calderon. Aye. Canella. Aye. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Aye. De Leon. DeSaulnier.
Aye.
Aye. Dutton. Emerson. Aye. Evans. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Gaines. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Herman. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. Aye. Kehoe. Aye. LaMalfa. Aye. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Aye. Carol Lieu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Price. Pavley. Aye. Price. Rubio. Aye. Runner. Aye. Samidian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. Aye. Vargas. Aye. Walters. Aye. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Aye. Wyland. Aye. Yee. Yee. Aye. Harmon. Aye.
Call the absent members.
De Leon. Dutton. De Leon. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Price.
Ayes 37, no 0. The measure is passed. Item 2, Senator Calderon.
Actually, Mr. President, it's by Assemblymember Calderon, and I'm jockeying it.
Okay, well.
But I'm honored to be confused with Senator Calderon. It happens all the time, by the way.
Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 621 by Assemblymember Charles Calderon, enacting to vehicle rental agreements.
Thank you, Mr. President. AB 621 by Assemblymember Calderon deals with a lack of protection for California residents who are victims of car accidents caused by foreign drivers who are visiting California. AB 621 provides relief to victims by establishing a method of service of legal process on out-of-country car renters who cause injuries involving rental cars in California, within the contractual limit of liability insurance purchased by the renter. AB 621 only applies to accidents in California involving foreign renters who purchase the liability insurance policy from a car rental company. Specifically, car rental companies who enter into a rental contract with foreign drivers and provide a third-party liability insurance will accept service of process on behalf of the foreign renter in case of an accident. The proposed amendment fixes a technical error which did not include the most current provisions, and there have been no votes. I would ask you for an aye vote.
Any debate or discussion, members? Any debate or discussion? Objection with using the previous unanimous roll call? Is there objection?
I'm sorry, Mr. President. I thought that we were still engaged in debate, but let it go. It's all right.
Good. Debate is over. Ayes 40, no 0. That measure is adopted. Item 3, Senator Smidian. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Bill 983 by Assemblymember Perea, enacting to public health and making an appropriation therefore.
Members, you may recall this item was before us previously. It dealt with the issue of grant availability for disadvantaged communities trying to improve their water systems. Passed this House unanimously, 36-0, but we had to rescind the vote because there were some technical errors in the amendments. Those errors have now been corrected. If you liked it before, you should like it today. Even better, because now the errors are gone. I respectfully ask for an aye vote on the bill.
Any debate or discussion, members? Any objection with using the previous unanimous roll call? Seeing none, ayes 40. Call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. Aye. Berryhill. Aye. Blakesley. Aye. Calderon. Aye. Canella. Aye. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Aye. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. Emerson. Aye. Evans. Aye. Fuller. Gaines. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Herman. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. Kehoe. Aye. LaMalfa. Leno. Aye. Tedlew. Aye. Carolou. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Runner. Aye. Semidian. Steinberg. Strickland. Vargas. Aye. Walters. Aye. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Wyland. Aye. Yee. Yee, aye. Huff, aye. Fuller, aye. Wright, aye. LaMalfa, aye. Smidian, aye. Dutton. Steinberg. Strickland.
Yeah, I could have.
Ayes 37, no 0. That measure is adopted. Senator Kehoe.
Thank you,
What purpose
Mr.
do you
President.
rise?
First, may I request to submit a letter to the Journal? It's been on SB 436. I think everybody's seen it. I have it right here.
Okay.
And then I'd like to take up file item 31 and file item 28.
File item 31. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 468 by Senator Kehoe, enacting to transportation.
Members, this is my I-5 bill in San Diego, only San Diego. It is puts requirements on the expansion. This is a 40-year, 27-mile expansion crossing 5 coastal wetlands in San Diego County on the I-15 freeway. It has the support now of the AGC, the California Coastal Commission, the California Laborers, Move San Diego, SANDAG, the Regional Transportation Agency, most importantly, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Planning and Conservation League. So you can see we've brought a lot of good support together, and I would ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Any debate or discussion? Senator Wyland.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I reluctantly arise in opposition to this legislation. The author, Senator Kehoe, is correct. This does have broad support from chambers of commerce, from SANDAG, from all sorts of organizations. However, the origin of that support is that initial legislation essentially said that before you could make any lanes whatsoever, you had to fully build out all the public transportation. Well, I'll tell you, there is essentially one piece of public transportation. It's called the coaster. And everyone who can possibly take it and make it work at all, they're taking it. It's subsidized. I don't have any problem with subsidized mass transit that works where the mass is taken. But you cannot, unless you want to spend tens of billions of dollars, change that. Well, now the legislation, which has gained support because it's better than it was, essentially takes 4 lanes north and south and adds 2 HOV lanes. And I guess one, as I understand it, you can pay to use that one. Well, I just wish someone could, or anyone who votes for this, could experience what it's like when my constituents drive from Oceanside, say, to downtown San Diego in the commute period, or when they drive home in the commute period. They will spend hours and hours and hours on a weekly, monthly, and yearly basis sitting in traffic, because this doesn't do enough. This doesn't do enough. And while they're doing that, they're burning up fuel. They're burning up costly gasoline, and it's not very good for the environment. So we also have, after this passes, even though we've encouraged the Coastal Commission to, try to act judiciously and quickly on this, the reality is, the history of the Coastal Commission is, they'll take another pound of flesh or more. We can't even cross one of the many lagoons in my district without having the Coastal Commission take a look at it. So when we have, and the result of this is there's about $1 billion of funds that were proposed that now we don't need because we can't make it as big as it needs to be for all those commuters. So my concern, and unfortunately the reason I rise in opposition to this, is that my constituents finally get the money to build out the size road they need to commute, and they have no other option. They don't have an option. You can't get on the coaster or any you could conceivably build and easily get to your work. And unfortunately, this is not going to change that very much. I appreciate the concerns of the author and the attempt to try to make this ecologically and environmentally sound as possible, but the net effect is going to be to take a freeway that needs a lot more lanes and reduce that. Urge your no vote.
Senator Correa.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, I also reluctantly rise to oppose this measure. I know this is a local measure for you, Ms. Kehoe, but at the same time, if you notice the opposition to this measure, it's from County of Orange. And we think about our highway transportation system. Our transportation system, it is a system statewide. And if any of you travel from San Diego to Los Angeles, you notice that in Orange County we've taken the time and sacrifice to expand our highway system. I remember 10, 15 years ago when they were expanding the 5 freeway that I'd wake up and there'd be dust all over my suits in the morning because in Anaheim we were expanding the 5 freeway. It is a system. Today, if you go north of Orange County, as soon as you hit LA, you hit gridlock. You go south now, and you'll be hitting gridlock. Why? Because we need to adjust the rest of that system in Southern California to accommodate the growth in the state of California. I know this is a local issue, but when you start affecting the transportation system of the state of California, you're affecting folks beyond San Diego. So again, I'm going to ask people to vote no on this measure.
Senator Harman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to support the comments from my fellow Orange County legislator, Senator Correa. This is a system-wide, or freeway system. This I-5 corridor stretching from San Diego to Los Angeles is a system type of roadway system. The infrastructure demand is estimated to increase 50% for highway infrastructure over the next several decades. And this bill tends to reduce and eliminate the number of authorized lanes. As I understand it, it's going from 14 lanes to 12 lanes. We need to have adequate, speedy, convenient vehicular traffic in this corridor. Tremendous number of cars go back and forth between Los Angeles and San Diego, transversing through Orange County, of course. Now, as Senator Correa indicated, Orange County residents stepped up to the bar and passed Measure M, a tax on the citizens that provided the funding to greatly expand the freeway system on the I-5 corridor in Orange County. And yet here on the south part of the system, under this bill, that corridor would be restricted and reduced and will not be able, it's already today is totally congested. It takes hours sometimes to transfer between the two locations. So I would encourage a no vote on this. It's not the right thing to do. I recognize that it's treated by Senator Keogh as a local district type bill, but it has enormous impacts on other areas of the state, and for those reasons I ask an aye vote.
Any further debate or discussion? Debate or discussion? Senator Keogh, you may close.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Harman wants a no vote, just to clarify. Thank you, Mr. President, and to the members that spoke to the bill. I have to defend my San Diego County residents. We, too, are investing in a system of freeways, transit, and transportation. In the last 10 years, we've built expanded the 905 freeway along the border, Route 52, Route 56, added HOV lanes and fast lanes to the I-15. And with this program, we will be adding HOV lanes and fast pass lanes to the I-5, something that is desperately needed and will help fund future projects. The bill is supported by every major transportation agency in the county because, really, members, it's the road to the future. It is more cost efficient. It is more environmentally efficient than what was originally proposed. It will move the transit projects earlier in the 40-year timeline. It will add additional lanes to the freeway. It is what San Diego needs to do right now, and I would ask for your aye vote.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. No. Berryhill. No. Blakesley. No. Calderon. Canella. Corbett. Aye. Correa. No. De Leon. DeSaulnier. Dutton. No. Emerson. No. Evans. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Gaines. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. No. No. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. No. Kehoe. Aye. LaMalfa. No. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Aye. Carol Lieu. Aye. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price.
Aye.
Aye. Rubio. Aye. Runner. No. Semidian. Aye. Steinberg. Strickland. No. Vargas. Aye. Walters. No. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Aye. Wyland. No. Yee. Yee. Aye. Gaines. No. Calderon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye.
Call the absent members.
Canella. No. De Leon. Negrete McLeod. Steinberg.
Ayes 22, noes 15. Senator Keogh moves the call. Senator, are you ready to take up your next item?
That's good. I know you did that.
Senator Keogh? Item number
28.
Item number 28. Secretary, please.